Terrell Royster here, Big Gold Bell Media. How
Hey,
you
Terrell.
doing, Dan?
I'm doing well. Thanks. Thanks for your time.
Pretty good. Feels like I was just watching you yesterday, and now here you are.
Here I am.
I want to say thank you again for taking the time to do this interview with me. They really appreciate it. I have a lot of questions. Hopefully, I get get some. I really got a lot of questions.
Okay,
Um,
good. That's what
so
we like.
for photographers, I mean, I think I've watched all these episodes so far, and I think yours so far has the most heart out of the all the episodes. It's real. You really let us into a side of your life
Hmm.
that the general public would have never even had any inclination to unless they personally knew you.
Hmm.
What was one of the things, like what was one of the reasons that you wanted to open up a little bit more about yourself and your family on this episode rather than kind of focus more on more of the work, which is shown here, but you more so focus on the family here.
I think a part of that was sort of like a level of trust that we had with the director, Pagan Harleman, and the producer, Gene Gallerano, and the cinematographer, Michael Cromit. He shot every single scene in that film, which is rare in a documentary because it was shot over a long period of time, over a year, that he was able to free up his schedule so that he could be the cinematography could be consistent all the way through. Um, I think one, I think the main reason probably is because I wanted it to be kind of an honest document and maybe to help people maybe that were viewing it that struggled to a degree. It was important to me to kind of paint the whole picture. I think oftentimes these kinds of things are kind of a little bit self-aggrandizing, and I definitely wanted people to feel connected to me and my family in a genuine way. And not just paint a picture of some guy that goes out and like has wonderful adventures and makes these pictures and everything's great because life isn't like that. No matter who you are, we have struggles. And I think it's important to have sort of like a well-rounded representation. Um, I don't think it was planned that that's what it would be by the filmmakers or myself, but I didn't hesitate to talk about those things. And when I first saw the film, it was about 5 months ago. We did a screening in New York of just a picture locked version of it. No, that didn't have any audio or didn't have any score. It didn't have the audio mix, and it hadn't been color graded yet. It was a really rough. And I was a little surprised actually that they kind of went that deeply into sort of like the personal stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised because I knew it all existed. I think I was actually really happy that they did, to be honest with you. There are shows out there about people in the creative industry that exist that are very slick and very polished and very almost like I would say impersonal. So I'm glad that we went there for sure. And yeah, you're right, that level of vulnerability, I think there's a level of discomfort that goes along with it, but I felt like it was honest, and I think as a piece, it was a kind of a truthful representation.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you usually get a lot of fluff pieces out there that really try to put a little bit more color that doesn't exist on certain people's lives. And I don't. This is not what this was at all. I mean, like you're very clear about how passionate you are your work. Your wife Catherine, your son Dylan, how much you love them, and finding that balance between work and family. Definitely, try to hold back from shedding a couple of tears here. Just the interactions that you had with you and your son, just had me thinking about me and my dad. I'm just like, I need to pause this for a second because this is much because I can understand. Oh, well, I can see now kind of a little bit more from the point of view of yourself, like still kind of trying to, like you said, make up for lost time and try to still figure it out, what being a dad is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and I, it really makes me think like, yeah, my father was in his 20s, whatever have mean. Like you basically still a kid almost,
Oh yeah.
still try to figure it out. So while you're trying to figure out your career and figure out, what your family, um, oh man, I'm getting whew. But yeah, it's just I just like I said, it just really hit me just that father son dynamic and just overall just the love that you guys have for each other and in every aspect of your life. Um
Yeah,
as
were
far
you surprised when you saw it that that's the kind of course that it took?
I was surprised, like yeah, because like I said, I watching how all of these other films are made, they all go a different direction. I was expecting like okay, we're gonna figure out because it starts off like hey this is Dan, like this is what he does, and then it was like okay we're gonna hit this direction. So it definitely caught me off guard about what the overall subject matter was gonna be for
Hmm.
this, and I'm honestly I'm really glad. I mean, this is definitely something that I would definitely find myself watching again. Like I said, it hit a lot deeper than I thought it was going to. Not only did I learn more about you and what you went through, but just overall type of person that you are. I mean,
Hmm.
you seem like no cut cards, you get the work done, but overall you're a very very caring person, and I
Hmm.
think that was definitely brought out through this documentary very very well,
Hmm.
very very well. Not only that, not just yourself, but your wife, and
Hmm.
Catherine, and seeing her, be with you all these years and going through all the stuff that you guys went through. I mean, that if that is not a testament to a true love story and dealing with trials and tribulation, like trials tribulation through a marriage, and I don't know what else. Again, I mean, this was a therapy session. This was a marriage that's like you got so much and so in this episode within like an hour. Like I said, I was not expecting.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad that I think that at the end of the day it did its job then.
oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. um Early on you were talking about a lot of the inspiration for your work, your love for like the miniatures, getting the magazines and stuff like that growing up. Makes me think about like highlights, when that was a thing growing up, you get the highlight magazine.
Sure.
um I just kind of question, like, as far as like that being your inspiration for a lot of what you do, and obviously the scope of where you've been and what you've done. Do you really kind of talk about family? Do you really feel like your mom and dad had a big influence to putting you where you are today or getting you to where you are today?
Yeah, I think there are several things. One is my dad, he was a welder. He was incredibly gifted with all things like fabricating, so wood, steel. So we had a big wood shop and tons of tools, and I would work with him tirelessly in the shop and help him do welding projects. And so there's a kind of an amazing like creativity in that. And I took that and ran with it and, started fabricating my own things and stuff like that. The other thing my parents did incredibly well was foster my interests. So if I had expressed interest in something, there was never a time I can remember that my mom wouldn't like take me to the library when I wanted to go to the library and get a book. And they really supported sort of like my path of interest. Having said that, they weren't really knowledgeable in a lot of the interests I had. So I had to bring them along with me a little bit too, to a degree. But they always were very supportive. And I think that, you know, that support and the idea of, like I said, like I had my own personal library that they you know, helped me build because we knew and recognized the power of information,
Right.
and that was a big piece. We had a encyclopedia set uh, that my dad bought. I remember when he bought it, actually, Funk and Wagnall's encyclopedias. They used to be like salesmen that would come to your house and encyclopedia salesmen. And my dad bought a full set of encyclopedias. And I remember just poring over those things and learning about everything from geopolitics to like natural disasters to, space travel and then we also got magazines. We got Life, we got National Geographic.
Right.
So having all that kind of information at my disposal really helped to like flesh out sort of my own interest because I think if you don't know the thing exists, there's not a very good chance you're going to pursue it, right?
Right.
So understanding the way the world works and understanding what the possibilities are is a huge piece in inspiration. And I never felt that there was a shortage of kind of like stimulus for me. And I think that the greatest contribution probably uh, my parents made outside of just like, ethics was providing me with information and a platform to sort of like work out what my own version of life was.
Right. It's funny now that we, back then where, access to information was so scarce. I won't say it's scarce, but you had to go get it.
Hmm.
You felt more inclined to get it versus now where you could pick up your phone and like you're less inclined to want to know things, or
Hmm.
look at, like I feel like, like you said, when the encyclopedias was out, you that was all day thing that you go through now, say you got your phone and your TV or other ways of getting media, that people are less inclined to not to inform themselves now that
Hmm.
it's easily accessible.
Oh yeah, I mean, with regards to TV that you brought that up, we had 5 channels. We had 3 network channels and 2 local channels. And and then the in the newspaper once a week, the TV guide. So it wasn't TV guide, it was like TV week or whatever,
Yeah.
but it was like all the programming that was going to happen in that week. And I would like get at my desk with that thing, and I would go through every hour of every day and figure out what I wanted to watch. And I would like mark it with underline it with a pen. So if there was like an army movie on I wanted to watch, I would like mark it and I would know exactly like, okay, Thursday at 3:30
Right.
is Kelly's Heroes is going to play, and I would like be there ready for it. Uh, yeah, we were at the whim of programmers back in the day. We're the programmers now. We get whatever we want now, yeah, information wise and content wise. Yeah.
Last question, we'll wrap this up. Now, as far as you and your son Dylan, we get a lot of heartwarming moments between you two, and him confessing to you about him growing up in front of the camera and not necessarily feeling comfortable. Obviously, once the camera cut off and y'all go back to your regular lives, do you feel like this documentary has improved what was already pretty good of a relationship between you two?
Yeah, I think that was one of the hurdles. We've always been close and we talk 2 or 3 times a day every day, and we have a very good sort of dialogue, and we try to go out to dinner once or twice a week or once a week or every 2 weeks. Um, so I do think that was that moment because all those images were up on the board. I'm working on a book of photographs of him, and that was the layout board,
Right.
and they took advantage of the fact that that stuff was already up. That wasn't put up for the documentary. That was just one of the projects I'm working on. And he and I for the most part were just talking about the work, and at the end, I think when he really contemplated like that entire sort of like moment, he was kind of overcome with emotion. Now, I'd never really heard him express that to me about, feeling more like an art project than a kid, any of those things. It was I do remember when he started charging me for shooting him, which that only lasted, I think I only paid him probably twice. It was one of those things where, he's like, "Can I get paid?" And I think he that's at the point where he started to understand like models get paid, so he wanted
Right.
to get paid. But he yeah, to answer the question, that was kind of a roundabout answer, but to answer the question directly, I would say yes, the entire experience of the documentary has, I would say, healed a wound and allowed us to kind of like move past it because it was brought out in the open and discussed and talked about and processed. And, I was able to kind of like make some level of amends and off camera as well. Since then we've talked about it. So I do feel like the process of shooting the documentary was a healing process for our relationship.
Dan, I really appreciate this. I mean, it definitely opened up a lot of the questions that I had. But great answer. I appreciate it.
Hmm.
Thank you so much again for doing this interview with me today. Like I said, really great. documentary there. Thank you so much for letting us into your live, to you guys' lives, and seeing what love of a good family and everything really can really do. Again, I really appreciate you for doing this interview with me today.
You bet. It's my pleasure. It was a great interview. I appreciate the questions.
Thank you.
You bet. Take care now.